Panoptic Mirror allows you to imprint an instant and sorcery card onto it by exiling that card from your hand and paying the mana value of the card. Not the mana cost, but the mana value. So if it costs 1 and a green, the mana value is 2, so you can pay 2 mana of any color. And then on your upkeep, you can copy the imprinted cards and then cast that copy without paying its mana cost. So while that trigger's on the stack, you can imprint an instant and sorcery card. And now that card you just imprinted is now an option available that you can choose to copy for Panoptic Mirror. Now for split cards, the mana value of the cards is the combined values of the two halves. For Fire and Ice, it's 2 and 2, which is 4, so I'd have to pay 4 mana to imprint it. Now, I think most people have heard that whenever you're creating a copy on the stack. But that's not entirely true. Copies are created in the same zone of the object that they're copying. Sometimes that's the battlefield, sometimes it's on the stack, and sometimes it's created in exile. And usually it's the case that when it's created in exile, you can actually cast the copy. So when we're creating a copy of this object in exile, we're copying the entire card, and then we cast that like we normally would with a regular card. So I could choose to cast the fire portion, or I could choose to cast the ice portion, but I can't choose to cast both. Even if something has something like Fuse, I can only choose to cast 1/2. Because Fuse cards only apply to a player's hand. Since this is being cast from exile, this does not apply. And for cards with Aftermath, you can cast a portion that doesn't have Aftermath, but the other half can only ever be cast from the graveyard, so this is not an option for when you're creating the copy. Okay, let me make this more clear. You can copy the card, but the only portion you can cast is a commit. You cannot cast the memory portion. Even though you would still have to pay 10 mana to imprint this onto Panoptic Mirror. And if it wasn't really clear from before, yes, we are actually casting the spell, so you would get any cast triggers from it. So something like Throes of Chaos, where normally creating a copy of it while it's on the stack would do nothing, since we're actually casting this from exile, we do get the Cascade trigger from this. Now, Panoptic Mirror's 2 sets of abilities are something called a linked ability. Basically, it means that these 2 abilities are only ever tied to each other and nothing else from outside of these 2 sets of abilities. So if I were to turn that Panoptic Mirror into a copy of something that could also somehow exile cards, those cards were exiled from ability that were outside of the linked abilities. So even though Panoptic Mirror did exile those cards, it's not exiled from the imprint and it won't be an option for the copies. Linked abilities are so tightly linked with each other that even if you turned a Panoptic Mirror into another Panoptic Mirror, well, now this new Panoptic Mirror has a new set of linked abilities that are not tied to the previous one. Anything that was exiled from the old Panoptic Mirror is not going to be linked with this new ability. Even though it's still the same object with what looks like the same set of abilities, it doesn't have access to the old exiled cards. So you would have to start all over with exiling cards under it to get it going again.